Hi and welcome back to another video. I've been meaning to make this video for quite some time. I'll go over the difference between the Kenda Kraze and the Kenda Krusade tires that come on the RadMini. The Kenda Kraze, which are the slicks right over here on this particular tire, came on the 2009 RadMini Step-thru and was more of an urban style bike. The RadMini, which has been out for several years, came with the Krusades, which were the knobby tires right over here. Both tires kind of have a pro and a con. The Kraze tires, which are the slicks, that the bike honestly rides a lot smoother. There's less rolling resistance, although I never checked to see if I actually did get a couple more miles on a charge. I would assume so, because when I'm riding to work there and back, I actually typically get like one additional bar just for the amount of riding that I'm doing. As far as wet weather performance on the Krazes, it's not as good as the Krusades, the knobby tires, which is to be expected with a slick tire, but it still performs pretty well in just kind of warm wet riding. In colder wet riding, it does get a little more slippery and you gotta be careful. So kind of use these during the summertime, and for about 3 months of the year, I'd run the knobbies in the more winter kind of slush and snow time that we get here in New York City. The tires are a tiny bit different in height. The Kraze, the slick tires, actually are a little bit shorter, not as tall as the Krusades. And where you notice the difference on that is when you have the bike up on the kickstand, at least for the Mini. The Mini Step-thru might have had a little bit different geometry with the kickstand or the position where the tires were actually mounted on the bike, so they probably counteracted for that. But using the Krazes on the RadMini, it actually is a tiny bit shorter, therefore when you're on the kickstand, it's more susceptible to falling over. So that is one thing I noticed, and one thing you just need to be careful with. On the actual sizing of the tires, the Krazes are technically a little bit wider. They're 4 1/4 inches wide, where the Krusades, the knobbies, are only 4 inches wide. I think it's just relative to the construction of the tire, why it ends up being a little taller. I don't know exactly why, but they are both 20-inch tires, so they fit the rim the same way. One thing to know about the tires too, which is kind of an obvious thing whether you have a slick or you have a knobby, the slick tires are much quieter. Again, just less rolling resistance, so they just have a little bit more of a pleasant ride during the dry weather. On wet weather, they are actually louder because they have more of a contact patch, and then they end up picking up more rain, moisture, things like that. One factor into the rolling resistance might be pressure too. On the Kraze tires, I tend to run them around 30 psi, 35 is max. On the Krusades, I normally run them about 23 to 24 psi, 30 psi is max on this tire. So that'll play a factor too as far as just having rolling resistance going down the street. Another thing about rolling resistance too, and just again, kind of an obvious thing, is you coast much further with the Krazes. They just tend to roll literally about another block further when I'm going at full speed. The Krusades just tend to grab the ground and a lot more resistance on them. And that's more or less the differences between these two tires. Again, there's not a whole huge difference, but as far as using the slick tires during the summer months or the warmer months, I definitely find there's a benefit to do so, to switch back and forth. The other thing I found too with the Krusades is that these tires, the knobbies, actually just tend to wear a little bit quicker, especially on all city riding. So that's one of the main reasons I switched over to the slick tires, just because it was not as much wear and tear on the tires and they're going to last a little longer. So again, as mentioned, this video is just going to be short and sweet. There wasn't a whole lot of differences between the tires, but just wanted to mention, having ridden these tires for several thousand miles at this point between the two of them, you know, there's pros and cons of having both of them. I'm still going to switch back and forth, kind of have the Krazes for the summer riding, the warmer months, and the Krusades for the winter kind of slushy months. Thank you again for watching my video. If you happen to like review videos in general, please hit the subscribe button. I do post up periodically. Also do a fair amount of videos about electric bikes, so if you like that, hit the subscribe button, like button. Appreciate it. Have a great day.